So I made a video a couple of months back that was talking all about the high price of lumber and what's going on in the lumber markets, and why lumber is so expensive. And there were a lot of comments on that video, and I learned a lot from everything you guys posted. One of the things though that kept coming up again and again is people talking about how there were so many lumber mill fires in 2020. I didn't know anything about it, and so I decided to investigate it. And so in this video, I'm going to share with you what I learned and talk about what impact lumber mill fires have had on the price of lumber overall. So stick around and we'll talk about it. So like I said, I've had a lot of really great comments in that video, and so keep those comments coming. I learn a lot from what you guys post, from sharing your experiences, from telling me what you're seeing out there. And this video is really based upon the comments that I received. Like I said, a lot of people wrote in the comments talking about these lumber mill fires, and it wasn't anything I knew about. And so I decided to investigate it and figure out what's really going on to determine what impact lumber mill fires in 2020 may have on the price of lumber today, which is through the roof. So here's what I did. I went searching for as many news articles as I could find where there was a mention of a sawmill fire or a lumber mill fire somewhere in the US or Canada. And I found quite a few, and I actually put them all on a list on my website at diywithdave.com, so you can check that out and take a look at what I found. I have links to all the news articles that I found, so you can read through those news articles. And hey, if you know of any lumber mill fires that are not on that list, feel free to add a comment, let me know where it was. Even if you have a link to an article, that's great. And I'll do the best I can to keep that up to date. So here is what I was able to find. In 2020, there were lumber mill fires all across the US and Canada in places as diverse as Klamath Falls, Oregon, Cable, Wisconsin, Cato Parish, Louisiana, Milton, Vermont. Some of the fires completely destroyed the sawmill. There was a fire in Bath, New Brunswick that completely destroyed the sawmill there. There was a mill in a place called Omak, Washington that burned as part of the Cold Springs wildfire. So when I was looking at these articles, most of the articles didn't mention the cause of the fire. And that was because they were kind of late breaking articles, that were written like the next day or the same night or whatever, just to say, most of them were local news articles that would say, oh, there was a lumber mill fire here, this lumber mill here burned. And so they didn't always, it was more just kind of an announcement that the lumber mill there had been a fire. They didn't always talk about what caused the fire. They didn't always talk about how bad it was. But there were some instances where they mentioned that the fire had been completely burned, or there were also some instances where they mentioned that the fire had been stopped, either by fire suppression sprinklers or by fire extinguishers that the employees had. So all in all the research that I did, there was only one sawmill fire that was in Stone Mills Township, Ontario in 2020 that was actually ruled as suspicious. And there were only a few cases where the sawmill was a complete loss. In some cases, it may have burned, a kiln building or some other building, but fire crews were able to put it out before it really ruined the entire sawmill. But there were some instances certainly where the entire sawmill was burned. So in all, I found evidence or articles of at least 24 lumber mill fires in 2020. So here's the problem though, is that a lot? I don't know. I mean, it sounds like a lot, right? But I wasn't sure if that was really a lot. So what I did was I started going back to 2019 to see how many lumber mill fires were there in 2019. And so here's what I found. In 2019, there were 22 sawmill fires, again, in places all over the country. And similar, a few of the sawmills were a complete loss, but a few of them weren't. A few were put out by sprinklers. So far in 2021, there have been 6 lumber mill fires. I'm sure that there's some that I'm missing. I'm sure that there's some lumber mill fires or sawmill fires that weren't reported, or that were reported in somewhere I can't find. But I would say ultimately, in all that I looked at, my conclusion is that lumber mills are inherently fire-prone places. They're inherently dangerous places. You have in some cases, old equipment that may spark. This is maybe not maintained. You have just piles of bark and sawdust just sitting around. In fact, I went to a local sawmill here in Pennsylvania, late last year, And I just found bark sitting all over the place, and chips, wood chips and sawdust all over. Now, this is a fairly wet area and it rains a lot, and so there's probably not really a lot of danger there. But if you think of a sawmill, say in Colorado, where it's a lot drier, you know, the danger of fire is a lot higher. Another thing that was really interesting is one of the fires in particular said that it was fueled by mounds of pitch and sap mixed with years of sawdust piled up on the floor. So you had a sawmill where they weren't cleaning up, and pitch, that stuff can explode, you know, if it's ignited. The other thing about a lot of these sawmills is they tended to be a really small sawmills. So the ones that are burning are not the sawmills where they produce most of the lumber or lumber products in the US, but they tended to be kind of small mom and pop operations. There were a couple where they mentioned that you know, 70 people were out of work. In my mind, that's a big sawmill, but that was from, I think, 2019, if I remember right. So the other thing about small sawmills too is that they're less likely to have fire suppression. They're less likely to have sprinklers. They're less likely to have fire extinguishers or well-trained staff or whatever else. And so they're a lot more likely to have a fire if there is old equipment that's not maintained, or if, you know, they just don't clean up or don't have good safety precautions. So how have lumber mill fires impacted lumber prices? From everything that I can see, I think that the answer is they haven't. I don't think that the fires have been significant enough. I don't think there's been a significant number of them. I don't think that they have been large enough to really impact the lumber supply in a way that would impact prices in any significant amount. And so, again, you can disagree with me. There may be all sorts of lumber mill fires that I don't know about. So if you are aware of something that I missed, feel free to put a note in the comment and we'll take a look at it. So what do you think? Do you think that lumber mills are just dangerous places, or do you think that there's something, you know, more nefarious going on? Some pyros out there setting fires. Or are you a firefighter? Do you have experience fighting a lumber mill fire? Or do you work in a lumber mill, you know, and have experience with fire suppression, you know, techniques? I'd love to hear what you guys know, what your experiences are, so feel free to add a comment in the comment section. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. If you did, feel free to hit that like button. Feel free to subscribe to my channel for more great content like this. And we'll see you in the next one.